If it was me dying on the sidewalk, you'd walk right over me. I pass you every day and you don't notice me. But these guys, what, because Thomas Wayne cried about them on TV?
Tony told the old man to tell me to tell you. It's what it is.
Once upon a time, there was a girl, and the girl had a shadow.
We believe your father is still alive and you're Neptune.
My father's alive, sir?
Embarrass yourself like that in front of all those goddamn people!
Guys, welcome back to our final episode of 2019, episode 151. This one is a special feature. We are joined by all of the hosts of Midnight Double Feature for the first time in a very long time. Matt, how you doing?
G'day. I'm awesome.
Nice. Colin, what's going on?
What's going on, guys? Hello.
And, dude, Colin, did you leave the cage unlocked? Because I think Danny got out and somehow jumped on the mic again. What's happening, Danny? What's going on, man?
Hey, guys, I found this empty chair and a microphone. Is it okay if I talk for a while to you guys?
Fine.
Welcome back.
Welcome back,
Chase
dude.
him back with a newspaper and a bottle of water, just like sprinting.
Back, get back, scat. But no, guys, thank you so much for joining us. This, like I said, is a special presentation episode, or a special feature rather, and we're going to be going through our top 5 films of the year, but not just films. We've opened up the gates. We've opened the floodwaters. It's going to be everything, video games, TV shows, you name it. Pretty much whatever piece of content you enjoyed this year. My goal when I asked you guys this question was to make it as hard as possible for you to choose. And Matt, you just just off air just now before the show, you were just like, oh God, this is so hard. And I'm just like, yes. I'm like fucking Emperor Palpatine, like, yes, young Jedi.
Let the hate flow
I
through
may
you.
change it throughout the course of this. It's so close.
Well, we only have one recording, and whatever gets recorded is set in stone, my friend. So There you go. But no, guys, thank you so much for. We'll do all of our praises for you guys at the end of the episode, because this is episode 151 and it is our last episode of the year. But I just want to say thank you so much for joining us, guys. Please, if you're not already, follow us on our socials. We have our main page, which is on Facebook, which is Midnight Double Feature. Please follow us on there. That's where we post all of our updates of our new shows that have just dropped. And then we also have our Facebook group, which is called The After Party. So that's 2 words, The After Party. And that's where our amazing community gets together and talks everything, including movies and memes and movie news and trailers and what have you. And we all just have a good laugh. We're also on Instagram, which is at Midnight Double Feature, and Twitter, which is at MDF Pod. And please remember to rate and review us on iTunes. That would be fantastic. And please subscribe if you're not already. And one of the other big things is please fucking share the show. If you like what you're hearing, share the show. Just share us around, be like, hey, if you got a barbecue or whatever the fuck, and just be like, hey, I've been listening to this podcast. Put us out there. Just be like, hey, check these guys out.
That's right. When you're there with your friends and families, everyone shut the fuck up. I want to hear Zohab's thoughts on Bad Santa. And go.
Yeah, everybody. Zohab's sick of you guys not talking about this episode. God damn it.
But it's strictly at barbecues, though. No bar mitzvahs or birthday parties. Only barbecues.
No weddings, none of that bullshit. Only barbecues, all right? It's just, yeah. All right.
Imagine if someone's first dance at a wedding reception was to Midnight Double Feature.
Just 2 people
reviewing Jurassic Park.
That would be Patrick renewing his vows.
Yes.
I was gonna say 2 people walking down the aisle.
Shouts to
I think I will
Patrick.
cry. I think I will cry if I see a video of that happening.
Appreciate it, Patrick. Shout out to you, man.
Shout out to everyone, dude. Shout out to our newcomers. Shout out to everyone who contributes in the after party. But enough about you guys. It's all about us with this episode. So let's get into this shit, man. We're going to talk our top 5, I'm going to say media or content this year. And we're starting off with Danny. Danny, give us your number 5 pick of 2019.
Okay, we're jumping right into it. Pretty straightforward. My top 5, the fifth one out of all of those is the third John Wick 3 Parabellum.
Cool.
I think everybody in here saw that, right?
Nope.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh,
Colin saying nothing. Colin, I reckon you struggled with the 5. Did you
Yes.
struggle?
I had to find 5 movies I saw this year that were new.
For pretty straightforward reasoning, most of the time you get trilogies. They just kind of have their ups and downs in them. This is a solid trilogy that's come out within like the past 6 or 7 years, right? And it's kind of like reestablished Keanu Reeves as like such a badass action actor and just a great all around actor, being able to do all the things that he does in those movies and keep it consistent across 3 of them. Usually when they get to the third one and they think you're going to wind it down, sometimes it's just a little underwhelming. But John Wick 3 was one of the few exceptions in a trilogy where you think about how well that it kind of ended. But I guess I can't say ended because it's a little bit of a spoiler. Of course, it looks like they're going to be making a 4th one. They're coming out with it. So, but I love that they had just such a stellar 3rd installment and that it just kind of amped up everything that was already coming out with them. And yeah, so that was my number 5 pick of 2019.
Dude,
I will give you guys a little spoiler.
Yeah,
So after our top 5 of the year, we want to do our top of the decade. I came very close to picking John Wick 1 as the best of the decade, just simply because in the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen a lot of franchises try to establish themselves and fail, but very few outside of the superhero genre has done it so well as John Wick. We have characters, we have world building, and it almost kind of revitalized the entire action genre. The way that they
World
do their
building.
stunts and action, is amazing as well. So, like, John Wick 3, good pick in my opinion. Those set pieces are insane.
Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely, man. That's a great choice for number 3 because for number 5 because it's a fantastic film. It's got great action sequences, great world building, just great moments, dude. Great action moments. The only reason why it's not in my number 5 is because it would be in the top 10 if I did make a top 10 of the year. Only reason it's not really there is because I think this one was just a bit lacking in the momentum section that the first one, and I guess even the second one didn't have. But yeah, no, dude, definitely.
Yeah, it goes on a little bit longer. I think where its strength lies is where Matt and you had mentioned the world building. I'm the type of person that kind of thinks and thinks about some of the afterthoughts of some of the scenes that are happening and like how did they come to create this building and how did the Continental come around? Like that type of stuff is what really fascinates me a lot of times when I'm looking and like watching a movie. And they did such a great job with that in the third one. It was just a pretty easy pick to at least be in my top 5.
Absolutely, dude. And everyone loves Keanu, man, because Keanu's the fucking shit, right?
Yeah, he nails it, man. He's there.
Yeah. That movie, what it doesn't get enough credit for is also its lighting and just use of color. It's such a beautiful film to look at.
Yeah. The steelbooks that they come out with, those have some stellar color to them because they're kind of based off the movie.
Yeah, I can just talk about John Wick forever. It's so good.
Who is next? I'm done talking about John Wick 5 if you guys are.
Well, Colin, you're next. Colin, go. Give us your number 5, dude.
Right. So number 5, and I'm just strictly going with film. I think I'm going to keep my honorable mentions to like books, video games, just because. I mean, I probably saw more movies than I played video games or like watched television. But my number 5, actually like going to the theaters and sitting down, was actually Brightburn. I really loved Brightburn, and it kind of flew under the radar. I think that, I went and saw it that one time and it really sucked me into it. I think it was just an awesome movie. It was a really cool take on, Superman, even though it's not really Superman. And it was just such a, in a age of superhero films and everything's, tied to like an extended universe or stuff, it's all connected and stuff. It was cool seeing Brightburn take the kind of majestic, unbelievably ripped, like 0% body fat superhero and like turn that on its head where you have this evil, like the evil version of that. And I was like, that's cool. That I thought that was really interesting. I thought that the performances in it were awesome. It was a really it was small. It took place kind of in one area. Because most of those movies end up being the fate of the fucking world, the fate of Sokovia, the fate of of Asgard, the fate of Gotham, and all of this stuff is always the fate of these huge areas. And Brightburn was just more of like the God, how do we contain this thing? And I love the way it ended. It kind of ended on a downer, but it just seemed so natural, and I really, really enjoyed that. And if you haven't seen it, I mean, it's I'm really glad I went and saw it in theaters, but I wouldn't have been upset if I had just Redboxed it or Netflixed it. But either way, I was very pleasantly surprised, and I think that's why it hit the top 5. It was almost an honorable mention, but I remember enjoying it so much that it was enough that I actually wrote a review for the upcoming attractions, and you guys read it off. And man, if I go to the extent of writing off the review to have it read, then I was like, yeah, that's the show that I really, really enjoyed this, and I did. Cool. I think it flew under the radar, and I hope more people get out to see it.
It seems like the type of movie that you'd really like, Colin. I didn't see it, but I loved the premise of it, how it is Superman, kind of the bizarro Superman almost.
Right, exactly, yeah.
It's also way more realistic. Like, there's more likely, going through puberty and adolescence, it's more likely Brightburn would happen than, I don't know, Superman would happen in real life.
Is that James Gunn? Gunn
He produced it. He produced it, yeah. I think he co-wrote it, or he had some element in the story. But
his brothers wrote it.
Right, that's
right.
It. Okay.
It's got his fingerprint. I mean, it's got Michael Rooker. It's got his fingerprints like all over that shit.
Nice. No, it does absolutely. It's funny actually. This episode is pretty. I like the way this episode is probably going to go because Matt and I talk about these movies every 2 weeks, right, on upcoming attractions. So I'm really curious to get your guys' thoughts on things like Brightburn and even John Wick 3, and then as we count down, because Matt, I know Matt and I watched Brightburn together, and we did a review on it on upcoming attractions. Matt I think was a lot more favorable on it than I was. I can't fully remember my negatives or positives because I barely remember that movie.
Right.
I think mostly for me from memory, I thought it was a little predictable, but I did end up enjoying it. I didn't hate it. I think I ended up giving it a positive review.
I didn't ask you to fucking cross-examine my shit, all right? So let's fucking go already.
He did it to me too. I was like, I like John Wick as my 5th. He's like, well, it wasn't in mine, and here's why.
It's constructive criticism, all right? We don't know if James Gunn's listening or not.
Here's why these days, wrong. Man. You can't fucking talk to lawyers, man.
I was gonna say we're not in a fucking courtroom.
So who was next? It was me and then Colin. Then who was next on this list?
Yeah. So next is me. So
whatever it is, let's rip into it.
What was your top 5? Your 5th one? What was it?
So and I'm confident that Colin hasn't seen it.
Just hurry up.
Don't know if you haven't seen it. But can we put him back in the cage, please? My number 5 pick of the year was Knives Out. I fucking loved Knives Out.
Hey, yeah, good choice.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, we saw it a few weeks ago. I think we saw it maybe the week after it came out. It was pretty great.
Dude, no one makes whodunits like these anymore, right? We get cop dramas and, cop mystery movies and, all those crime mystery movies all the fucking time, but we never get a family locked in one sort of specific location. There's a specific number of potential murderers who could have done the murder. And then, at the end of it, you get this big, massive reveal. No one really does that anymore, right? Obviously, the big example of that movie is Clue, right? Going back to the 80s? Is that an 80s movie with Tim Curry? I think it is.
Yeah, late 80s.
I've never seen that.
Yeah. But no, man, this movie was absolutely fantastic. The cast in this movie is outstanding. It's Don Johnson, Jamie Lee Curtis, Chris Evans,
hell yes.
Daniel Craig, Christopher Plummer, Ana de Armas. It just keeps going, man. This cast is absolutely fantastic. And the director of this might be as big of a character, Rian Johnson, coming off that heavily divisive The Last Jedi film. just a little picture that some people might have heard of. I don't know.
You mean the guy who did Breaking Bad episode and all that? I didn't know he did a Star Wars movie. How's the internet feel about that? The internet must be stoked. They must love him.
let's not. Yeah, this is us like pre 2017, like just going before. Yeah, but no, he's done some amazing work, dude. He's done Ozymandias in Breaking Bad. He did Looper. He did Brick. He's a fantastic director. And man, like it's so cool to see, because I have not seen a director get as much backlash as Rian Johnson following The Last Jedi, right? So it's kind of amazing to see him take all that, while taking all that negative vitriol and churning out one of the best films of the year. And like it's just so good. It's just so good to see a director like this kind of like bounce back from that kind of like criticism. And this movie is just amazing from start to finish, dude. It's just fun to watch. It's entertaining. You never really kind of get a sense as to who the murderer is until like, when they're finally revealing it. And it's great. It's hilarious too. Like it's actually fucking hilarious.
Very funny.
Yeah, for sure. Matt, give us your number 5 pick of the year.
My number 5 pick of the year is Toy Story 4. That was this year, right? Yep.
Damn, son. Good pull. Nice.
Yeah, so like after when they announced this film, they were pretty much like, look, we agreed we weren't going to do another Toy Story till someone sort of pitched this film. And I remember thinking, damn, this better be a fucking good story, because Toy Story 3 was the perfect finale for that franchise. And in many ways, it still is. But Toy Story 4 sort of works as like this offshoot, almost like an expansion pack of it all, where it's not a Toy Story film, it's like a Woody film. So while we sort of said goodbye to the toys in Toy Story 3, like sort of come back around for one last hurrah, it's a great way to end Woody's character arc. And it has so much heart, so much love and care like put into this storytelling. It's just a strong reminder of why Pixar are the kings of scripts, in my opinion. It's funny. It's got great new characters. It's just got everything I want to see in a film. In fact, in hindsight, maybe it should be higher in this list. But I think Toy Story 4 was always going to be in my top 5. It is absolutely I'd put it in the top 5 of Pixar as well. It's such a great film. And, what more is else there to say? Everyone knows it's good, so why bother?
I'll add that there's a scene in the beginning of that where it's raining and it's dark outside. It's at evening time and it looks like real. Like it looks like realer than real life.
Yeah, I remember thinking how amazing that animation was there, dude. Like especially in that scene that you just mentioned. That's a fantastic pick. Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
And I love how diverse all of our picks. We got Knives Out, Brightburn, Toy Story, and John Wick. Like right there, where like you ever watch those Hollywood Reporter roundtables where they sit down like the actors and directors? Like I feel like we're at this one of these roundtable things. I absolutely love watching
a couple
those.
of those.
They're
yeah,
fantastic.
there was one that I watched with like Mahershala Ali and Viggo Mortensen and a couple other people. Like it was a super eclectic group of people, and they were like cool as fuck talking to each other. You could tell they were really into it. I like those people anyway.
Those are great. And can I ask you guys, just speaking of the diversity of our picks, of the 4 we've mentioned so far, has anyone else picked any of those 4 in our top 5s?
No, I haven't.
No, but they definitely made my mental list in the beginning. When I was narrowing them down, I was like, well, Toy Story 4 is great.
I didn't.
Knives Out, not Brightburn. Fuck Colin.
No, I didn't see any of those movies besides Brightburn. I didn't see Knives Out. I didn't see Toy Story. I didn't see John Wick. It would be easier for me to go around and like brand the stuff I saw, than didn't see. It's so much shit.
Well, Danny, you're up next, dude. Reveal your number 4 pick of 2019.
Gotcha. Sorry. Number 4, this is a pretty easy pick to know that it was just in my top 5 in general. A movie called Booksmart. Did you guys see this?
Shit. Haven't seen that yet. Really do want to, though.
Cool. I'll make it straightforward. Yeah. Oh, Matt, did you see it? Not see it?
I really want to see it, but later on you might see a similar pick later on from me.
Okay. This is directed by Olivia Wilde. I think it's her directorial debut.
That's right.
If you live in the States and you go to a Regal Cinema, you've known about this for a fucking year.
You have.
I'm Olivia Wilde, director of Booksmart. And this is my Coca-Cola ad at the beginning of every fucking... Like, we've been hearing
really?
that...
Is that a thing?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. So Regal is something that's nearby us. And I think Colin lives really close to a Regal. You probably
Yes.
go to the same one I'm talking about.
Right, yeah.
And they have an advertisement in the beginning where these college students have been filming these Coke commercials and they rotate them through. And she always has this thing in the beginning, and so it's just like on repeat. It burned into our brain. So I think that might like subconsciously may have added to me picking it, but it's super well deserved. It's like a really cutting kind of comedy that's just totally catches you off guard with every like kind of level of joke that they kind of go to that you're not expecting. Definitely like kind of like a Hangover level of type of humor. It's produced by a lot of people, but notably Will Ferrell and Adam McKay are two names that come to mind that are also attached to it, which is very interesting to think about.
God, Adam McKay is just on fire these days, dude.
He's really nailing it for sure. And so great cast of people and crew tied to it. Most of the cast that are in there are really young. You've probably never seen them in anything before. I definitely haven't. But like you'll end up immediately loving them within the first like 5 minutes of just watching it. You'll love the two main characters. It's the easiest way to explain it is Dazed and Confused, as in it's like the last day of high school and it's kind of everyone winding down and then going to kind of like a big party. But instead of like Dazed and Confused, just having that solid, like perfect temperature and cruise the whole time through, it's kind of like a little bit more it's way more of a comedy to it for sure. It's just super different. It was really refreshing to see something like that. And I just couldn't not put it in my top 5. So
that's a good, definitely a good pick, dude.
I know you guys haven't seen it, but go see it. I'm Olivia Wilde, director of Booksmart.
Oh, it's fucking funny, man.
Well, the thing with Booksmart here is that it got a limited release. Like it's not a wide release. And when things are limited release, Matt and I have to drive out to fucking Newtown, which is like 40 minutes away in the city, to go see them. So, yeah, which sucks. But I mean, Matt, it's definitely on my list.
Matt, what's your number 4?
Well, Matt's not next.
I thought Matt was next.
No.
It's Colin, you're up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Colin, what was your top 4? I'll remember that.
My top 4 is actually a movie I finished watching about an hour ago. And I had to get another. I was like, man, I got to get another movie under my belt. I woke up really early this morning. I woke up at like, and I just so happened, like this never happens. I woke up at like 5:30 this morning, wide awake. It was just like, well, I was like, I think I'm going to go to the gym. You know, I like going to the gym before work, and I got on YouTube, you know, just looking up a cool video, and there was the digital copy available to rent of Ad Astra, and I was like, I'm going to check this out. So I watched about an hour of it this morning, never made it to the gym, barely showered, and got to work, barely got to work on time. And it sucked me in so well because, I absolutely despise having to go to work today because I wanted to finish watching Ad Astra. Have any of you guys seen it?
Yeah,
I think Zohab for sure.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah, it was good. Did you see it at all, Matt?
No, I really planned to, but I didn't.
Is it creepy that I knew Zohab had seen it?
No, it's you're a part of the podcast, so you're allowed to know that.
Right. Well, I it was Ad Astra felt like Interstellar and Blade Runner had a baby. You know, it felt so. It's a movie that has such a rare thing these days in that it's patient and it doesn't mind. It lets you fill in the gaps and it shows more than it tells. Now, not only is the score just incredible, there's parts of the score of that movie that I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. But it's also, the cinematography behind it's probably some of the best I've seen in a while. But I love the kind of subgenre that it's fallen into with like Gravity and Martian and Arrival, shit like that, like Interstellar. It's kind of fallen into this kind of subgenre of these movies that have come out in the last like 5 or 6 years that have been really successful. And I just thought it was absolutely great. I like Brad Pitt. He's incredibly stoic in it, and he's very preserved. And I think that it's so easy for an actor to just kind of do like, not to bash him, I love Jim Carrey, but the blah, blah, and kind of overact in a way. But like Brad Pitt has this very quiet, stoic kind of quality to it, which is great, And Tommy Lee Jones is like the MVP of the movie. He's incredible. He is dynamic and he's terrifying and he's quiet and he's big and he has such a presence, not only just in the name of Tommy Lee Jones, but the character that he plays has been lost for years, and you're like, dude, in space, and you would think what that does to a person, and he captures that so well without overacting it, without acting kind of crazy. And, it wasn't this whole, it wasn't one of these, like, we've got to save the world, something, blah, blah, blah. The whole world saving shit was kind of like the B plot. And this main plot was Brad Pitt trying to reconnect with his father, Tommy Lee Jones. And you're like, this is incredible, and it has a lot to do with, like I said, on the B plot, the kind of like the fate of the earth kind of shit, like Interstellar, but also at the same time, our connections with us as humans, our connections to trying to find, extraterrestrial life. And ultimately it was a movie about, I feel like, obsession and, getting lost and forgetting like the little things and forgetting how to be human sometimes. And it was just really, really incredible. I finished watching it about an hour ago, and the ending left me wanting a little bit more, I'll be honest. But in terms of, a $6 rental on YouTube, I was like, man, I'm going out and scooping this up. This is cool. This movie deserves to be talked about a little bit more. But, as far as, those kind of movies, I liked Interstellar. Okay. I really liked The Martian, but I think for as much as people talk about Interstellar, Ad Astra needs to be up notch with Interstellar as well. But I really, really enjoyed it, and I highly suggest checking it out.
Colin, just a quick interruption segue. I looked up the cinematographer while you're talking, Hoyt van Hoytema. If I'm saying that correctly, he's the same cinematographer for Interstellar.
Oh, fucking course he is.
Yeah,
Her,
he's a Nolan.
Spectre, etc.
He just did a fantastic job of capturing the light of space, the darkness of space, the feeling of like swimming in an ocean that never ends is just it's overwhelming in that movie. It could almost like, there's a couple of times where I had to kind of like, like I was just like, God, I feel like almost like claustrophobic, but at the same time there's so much space. It was just really, really incredible, and I highly suggest checking that movie out. It definitely flew under the radar this year.
No, dude, that's absolutely an amazing pick. It's a very unique movie. And I remember seeing the trailer for it and thinking that it's super like a really unique science fiction film. And man, Brad Pitt is just having a bit of a killer year with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's for sure going to be nominated for that. And yeah, all I want to say without spoilers is just two words. I want to see more about space pirates. That's all I'm saying. Lunar pirates might be a bit more of a.
Oh yeah. I was like space pirates. I was like,
might be a bit more relevant. But anyway, all right, man. I'm up next. So my number 4 pick of the year, and my next 3 are probably going to be. You guys will probably guess them, right? If you've heard upcoming attractions, you probably know what's coming. My number 4 pick is Joker.
Nice.
I fucking loved this movie, and this is a movie that I was like, kind of like, when they announced it, I was a bit like hesitant. I'm like, Joker, okay, fine. And then Scorsese's name gets attached to it, and it's like, oh, okay, so there's some credibility here. And then Scorsese ends up leaving, and Todd Phillips ends up, jumping on board the project, and he's the director. And this is a guy who's directed all 3 Hangover films. But yeah, it was just mind blowing, dude. I remember watching this film in I think it was 70 millimeter, and I watched it in like seriously, like the first the projector breaks down in the first 5 minutes, which is fun. And we end up with like a blank screen for like 2 minutes, and we could hear the audio and stuff, and the entire crowd is going insane because you can't just rewind film, right? Like I remember people yelling out, rewind it, and I'm just thinking, you can't rewind film, dude. Like you just can't. It's not how it works. But yeah, no, this is all that shit aside. I was literally, just before we jumped on here, I was listening to a interview with Todd Phillips, man. And that guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to this film. Like everything, like from like the font that he chose, that really like, yellow font to describe Warner Brothers, presents, blah, blah, to like, the end and like how ambiguous it is. That guy is just so dialed into this movie. And man, Joaquin just turns in one of the best performances of the decade, dude. Like that guy is just a powerhouse in this fucking movie. It is an incredibly divisive film, I think. I think to a lot of people, this isn't their Joker, which is fine, which is fair enough. You can, definitely take away points from that. It's not your traditional adaptation of the Joker, but
for sure, yeah,
it's an amazing take. In my opinion, it's an amazing take. Like, and that's what adaptations should be, in my opinion, man. Like there should be, you know, different takes on something that's pre-existing, or like, you know, a director's like different take on something. I don't want to keep seeing the same shit over and over again. Like, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, and I think I've seen a little bit of a trend. I know you've definitely noticed this, Zoheb, where some of the directions that some of these rehashing of stories are having to go now are the darker versions, or like the, hey, what if you didn't win that fight back then type of version of this. Colin mentioned one in his top 5 pick already is Brightburn, right? So this Joker is definitely more of the version of like, you're not going to be walking away smiling from this, from loving the ending of the story. You know, you're going to walk away kind of like still thinking about it, sort of
right.
level. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that, and it's like, you know, traditionally the Joker's not a character who has a, you know, who's bullied and has a mental health issue and then, you know, goes on a crime spree. Like, that's not really his thing. Like, you can probably get that from the Killing Joke, but in every other interpretation, probably not. Like, he doesn't fall in a vat of acid and all that shit. Like, it just doesn't happen in this movie. And that's not what Todd Phillips is going for. Like, that's not 100% what they're not going for. And I'm more than anything, I'm really excited to see where this movie takes us. Like, this is from memory, a $70 million movie that grossed over $1 billion. Like, that is just an achievement in its own right. But, you know, movies like Logan, movies like this, I'm keen to see where the superhero movie kind of like goes from here. You know, Marvel's got its own brand that it's established and is doing absolutely incredibly. But if we're seeing like this kind of like offshoot of like superhero movies now, or, you know, kind of like villain films now, I'm 100% on board. And yeah, I absolutely love this movie. This is my number 4 pick. This is a fantastic film. Definitely go see it if you haven't already. But don't be sad before watching this movie, because this movie will only make you sadder.
Ooh, yeah, good disclaimer for sure.
Yeah. Matt, give us your number 4 pick.
Okay, I got a weird one, and you guys probably haven't heard of it, but if I have to be honest, one of my favorite pieces of art or media that came out this year is a song. It's called Chemical, and it's by a band called The Devil Wears Prada, and it spoke to me on levels that not much music has done for me in a few years, so I really want to shout it out. Just for the record, like, I probably like music more than I do film. I spend every Thursday night waiting till midnight for the Spotify release radar to... I know, it's crazy, right? But I spend every Thursday night, I wait till midnight to go on to Friday when the Spotify release radar changes, but then I'll give you the new songs of the week that are tailored to your taste.
Oh my God.
And
that's cool.
This one, yeah, man, I love doing that. And I love discovering new music. And this is kind of crazy because this is coming from a band that I haven't listened to in a while that typically has been this very heavy metalcore band. And they just bring out with a really soft ballad song about depression. And like the meaning behind it is like talking about how depression is really just like a chemical imbalance in your brain, and like how you can like feel one thing and this person just keeps telling you it's only chemical. And it's the most authentic way I've seen depression talked about or mental health talked about in a song in a long time, which is really refreshing because I feel like it's really trendy right now and it's almost romanticized. And I don't know, just as someone who's gone through all this stuff, I found it really powerful. And so yeah, I want to give a shout if anyone's interested. If you like this song, you might like their other stuff because it's very different from them. But it's called Chemical by The Devil Wears Prada. It's a
Matt, what's the genre of The Devil Wears Prada so everyone knows? It's rock, more heavy metal, right?
Yeah, typically, but this song is not. I would say this song is like soft rock. But the other music is not like this.
Sure.
But yeah, I love this, man. It spoke levels to me.
Great.
Let's get back into films though.
No, dude, that's a great pull because like you asked me when we were making up this category whether we could choose music, and I was like, yeah, dude, like absolutely. Like this list, I wonder if there is a piece of content in there that kind of like shapes who you are, or like, you know, harkens back to your like a memory of you or something like that, dude. Like something that has such an amazing meaning to you. Absolutely, for sure, put it in there.
Nice.
Colin. Danny, your number 3 pick.
Are you guys going to get onto him for going out of order?
That's what I was just about to say. We're going to start busting some balls here.
I'll let Matt feel a little less strange for picking that for one of his picks, because my number 3 is actually an album, and I wouldn't have even thought about doing that unless earlier when we were talking in our group message, you were like, "Hey, can we pick an album or music?" And you're like, "Yeah, I guess it is any media." So I'll be pretty straightforward with mine, but I'm very relatable with Matt. Also, I don't stay up till midnight for the release radar on Spotify, but I am really like in tune with my Spotify. I have a playlist that I've made on there that is like super fine tuned. Like I'm really into it. I collect a lot of music. I know I am kind of the same level of just listening to a lot of it and collecting it and just kind of staying up to date with it. So I didn't know that about you, Matt. It's funny. I'm just glaring into your eyes longingly.
Falling in love. That's how it happens.
I don't think you guys all heard of this group, or that it's actually just a person. It's a artist, goes by the name Tycho, and he does pretty. Okay, so he does mostly just like electronic music, and it's really hard to explain to somebody what it would sound like. It's not what you would hear maybe if you were like at a yoga place. Like it's above that level. But it's definitely not like the level of music that you'd probably want playing in like a high-paced game. Like, I don't know how to explain the level of electronic it is, but it's supposed to be kind of just very soothing. But it's also just very great. I listened to it a lot in college. It's just good studying music, and there's a lot in the background. But nothing ever really to ever even bring up in something like this format. However, he came out with an album this year that was really different. It has like 6 or 7 tracks that are on there, and it's called Weather. Like, you know, storming and tornadoes, like the weather, like, so it's called Weather. And the thing that was different about it was he had a female singer that came and sung on like a majority of the tracks. Some of them is still his normal style, but most of the tracks, it has this woman, Saint Sinner, that I'd never even heard of, that sings in a lot of the backgrounds of some of them. And I didn't even know that he was going to come out with a release, but he comes out with really great, consistent, high quality releases. I think he does his own artwork and everything himself, so he's like really that level into his music. He is one of those people that just fine tunes it down to like the sound bite. You can tell that he's really meticulous about it. And man, this year was just his crowning, I think, year for anything that I had listened to with his. There's a song that's on there called Japan, where after they end up going through like the first verse and then they are making their way into the second verse, and there's kind of that break after the chorus, the way that he melds her kind of like singing in the background with the instrumentals that he's used to doing without any vocals is like badass. Like it almost makes my hair stand up on my neck listening to it. It's just so detailed, and it's in all the right places. And I've been listening to him since college. So long that just to hear him progress so well was just really cool to be like, oh my God, like I've even seen this guy live. We've it was really great, and it was just cool to hear it progress that well. And that album, I think I just have probably shuffled. It's on my Spotify top list, Matt, by the way, of the year of the plays. So
fuck yeah,
if that tells you anything. So that's it. I'm surprised you guys have heard of them. I think I've shared it on my story before. Maybe that's how you guys maybe have seen it from me. But
no, it's really weird that you. Well, it's not weird. It's a coincidence. Well, and Danny's met him before. You know, Chris Kennedy. You know, we jammed together and stuff, and he was drumming, and
I know Chris.
Right, yeah. He pretty much wrote our theme song for the show, and he would just sit by himself with his little program called Oxy and write stuff, and he is a huge Tycho fan. Him and the guys I jam with, Matt and Chris, huge Tycho fans, to the point where when Chris got married this past summer, when we walked, all the groomsmen were walking down the aisle, we walked down to it's a Tycho song. I can't remember which Tycho song it is, but Tycho is a very like ambient, chill wave, down tempo kind of.
For sure.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's fucking great. I do love Tycho. He's very, very cool. There's not a whole lot of
like
artists
Moby? Is it like Moby? Like that style?
Moby's a little more upbeat. Like you're kind of going to be in a club almost sort of setting.
Right.
We've been to a Tycho concert, and it's nothing that you would get crazy listening to. If anything, you just kind of like hang out and be like, wow, this is great. Let's go buy weed.
Yeah, it's definitely something you eat mushrooms to.
That's a great. Oh, not that I've never done that, but that's probably a very great thing to like relate what that might be like.
Right. No, for sure. Who is it? Is it me? Is it my go?
Come
Okay,
full
cool.
circle.
I think it's
Wow.
Colin's turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Number 3. So yeah, I was supremely let down last year by a certain musical biopic that came out. And
Nice.
it was, you know,
I'm
one of my
already writing down your pick, by the way. I already know what it is.
right, yeah, and I love Queen. However, Bohemian Rhapsody was just a quiet disaster. I you know, there were parts of it that I really loved. Most of it I didn't really like, but hey, you know, they at least brought Queen to the forefront. But what they should have done is taken a page out of Rocket Man, which was awesome. I loved Rocket Man. I thought it did a phenomenal job. It's, for one thing, there's no bullshit. It's not the Disney version of their life. It is an R-rated film about a guy who, you know, struggled, and he was for the brilliant
Perfect
he was.
word.
Right. And I mean, and it was, well, thank you. Not right. Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. Of course I'm perfect. I said the right thing. Thank you. No. It is a movie about a brilliant guy who struggled with a lot of problems, of committing suicide, of being a closeted homosexual, of having parents that disapproved of him, of a lot of the things that haunted Freddie Mercury. And I think that Bohemian Rhapsody is a perfect version of when you let people who are alive try to control. Brian May and Roger Taylor from Queen are trying to rewrite history for the film. They're trying to make it seem like, you know, that they were just perfect angels and blah, blah, blah. And Rocket Man is like, no, I was fucking chugging pills and, and drinking vodka and just doing fucked up shit and there's a great scene in Rocket Man where, Elton John has just split with John Reed, which was Queen and Elton John's manager for a long time. And they kind of had like a sexual relationship, and he just takes a bunch of pills, downs half a fucking handle of vodka, and he's like, hey, I'm going to go kill myself, and just jumps in the pool and just goes down to the bottom of it. True story, had to get him out and pop his stomach and, you know, save him and shit. And it was a great story about, you know, Elton John coming to terms with, you know, who he was versus, you know, Reginald Dwight or Denny. I can't remember. I think it's Reginald Dwight is his real name. And he was like, fuck that dude. I'm Elton John, you know, and it came to a thing of like having to cross roads with who he was and who he was going to be. And if the people who knew who he was weren't going to accept who he was going to be, that he was fucking done with them. It's a great composition of a biopic and musical. I'm not a huge musical fan. However, like if you do it the right way, I'm down. I like Rent. I like musicals. You know, I'm not a huge fan, but I do enjoy them. But there are just some hysterical parts in that movie of him, like them doing a musical number and they're just taking clothes off of him and putting clothes on, and he snorts a big fucking fat line before he goes on stage. I mean, and Elton John played to like 500,000 people in Russia's Red Square in like the late 80s and the early 90s. I mean, very few artists ever get to the size of Elton John. I don't even think Queen ever got to where Elton John is. I really don't. And I think Queen's a huge band, but Elton John is like, I mean, he's like the fucking Beatles. I mean, he's up there. And as far as somebody who's continually put out good music and has kept their head on straight for the most part and not let it ultimately get the best of them. You got a guy who's friends with people like Billy Joel and Freddie Mercury, but also was best friends with like Princess Diana and shit. They did say there was a cameo. They were trying to get Rami Malek to come in, and he was going to be sitting across from a restaurant dressed as Freddie Mercury and waving at him.
That's cool.
And I was like, man, that fucking sucks, because it's Dexter Fletcher who had to finish Bohemian Rhapsody because of Bryan Singer.
Interesting.
And I think that, you know, Elton John, he let a lot of stuff. He's like, yeah, that's how it was. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat shit. And that's one thing I love about Elton John. He's always had feuds with Madonna. He had to give Madonna Best Live Act a couple of years ago, and he goes, oh yeah, that's fucking great. Give Best Live Act to a bitch who charges $75 to fucking lip sync. And it's like, good God, dude, like he's brutal. He's just as
savage.
brutal on, yes, he's very savage, and he's just as brutal on himself as he is those people. I think it's a great composition of a musical and a biopic. It's dark, it's sad, it's beautiful, it's funny. But it also, here's the thing, is Elton John he did not write all of his songs. There was Barry Toppin. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I might be saying that wrong. But his writing partner is a huge part of that movie. And most people had no idea that Elton John was 50% of that equation. and he gives full credit to that guy, and that's fantastic. He is a huge part of that movie.
Is that Bernie, Colin? Is that who
yes.
Bernie is?
Yeah, Bernie Taupin.
I have a live recording of him, and there's a song that he starts before he says it. He says, "This is one of the my favorite songs that Bernie and I have written." And I was like, huh.
And it's fantastic. He gives all that guy the credit in the world, and I just love that. He could have,
very cool.
It's just great. And there's a great part where they kind of split ways, and you can see Elton like having trouble without Bernie being there. And they touch on a lot of really, really great stuff. I think it's probably one of the best biopics I've ever seen, especially about a musician. And if we're gonna fucking nominate Bohemian Rhapsody for best film, then I mean, Rocket Man's the best thing to come out in 10 years. If Bohemian Rhapsody is best film, Rocket Man is like God. That's all I'm saying is like I really don't think Rocket Man is that good, but I really don't think Bohemian Rhapsody is that good.
Absolutely, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Dude,
before
100%.
we get to Zohab's pick, I just want to say it's funny that Colin, measured success by Queen. Like the Beatles was like 4 queens. Like that's how big.
Oh, that's fun. You take like 2 Queens and sprinkle in a Rod Stewart and a little bit of Billy Joel, and you got an Elton John.
You're like, you got to get like 2.7 levels of Queen to play in the Red Square at Russia.
And just one more thing, Colin, on Rocket Man. If this was a lesser year for Best Actor nominees, then I think, man, Taron Egerton should be nominated because, man, he did a fucking incredible job portraying Elton John.
I really do. Give credit where credit is due. That's totally true.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man, good pull. And if you want to listen more about Bohemian Rhapsody and Colin's thoughts on it, it's episode 123 of Midnight Double Feature with our boy Patrick Harrington. So yeah, go check that out.
I'll allow that episode to be mentioned only because of Patrick Harrington. I would be like, no, don't listen to that shit. Don't watch that. Only watch Bohemian Rhapsody for Live Aid. Fuck everything else.
For sure. For sure. All right, man. My number 3 pick is a film that I'm almost 100% certain that Colin and Danny hasn't seen, but I know Matt has. It's a Korean film called Parasite.
I thought that was going to be your number 1.
That is on my watch list for sure. I've just heard nothing but positive things about that movie.
Yeah, okay. Well, here's where I'm going to start. Stop listening to things because the more you know about this movie, the less you'll enjoy it. This is
I
one
know
of those
nothing
movies,
about it. That's the thing.
Yeah, I went in thinking it was like a sci-fi thriller. It's definitely none of those things. Yeah, I thought it was going to be like that.
It looked just like some
opposite.
Serious indie movie.
It's more like that.
Serious indie movie. Yeah, no, it's 100% a serious indie movie. When it comes to like movies that are mentioned, for the race for Best Picture for Oscars, I rarely watch the trailer for them. Not really. Mostly out of negligence. Mostly because I'm like, whatever. I'll watch it. I'll probably watch it. So there's no need to watch a trailer for it. So yeah, I hadn't seen a trailer for this, and all I knew is that it was a foreign film, and all I know is that it was a Korean film. And it's from the director of Snowpiercer. If you have seen Snowpiercer, that's a fantastic movie with Chris Evans in it. Really good. This movie just blew me away, dude. And I did mention on the last episode of the podcast of upcoming attractions, I am a bit hesitant to approach films that are foreign films because I'm a racist. So, but really, like anything that has subtitles, I feel like you kind of lose a little bit of the meaning and intent behind words, if that makes sense. So,
I watched a lot of Chinese movies, and it does take away from what you're trying to pay attention to on the screen and really absorb when you're staring at the bottom third of it the whole time.
Right. But this director, having worked in American cinema before, I think he's kind of got everything down pat in terms of like how the characters are supposed to deliver their lines. Like he's got you don't lose the feeling of things. Like the way they deliver their performance, you still get a sense of what they're conveying, even if you had no subtitles. Like you still get the emotions that they're trying to convey. Nice. But this movie is all about, it's all about classism. It's all about family struggles. It's all about, how if you have a bad situation, then you have no idea how other people are. Like how bad other people have it as well. Like you always think you're the unluckiest person on the planet, but then you come to find out that someone's got it worse than you. And this movie does such a fantastic job of getting that across. And And every time you think you have a needle on this movie or have a handle on what this movie is about, it's going to throw a curveball at you. It's going to be like, well, no, I'm pulling the rug out from under you, and this is not what that is. And that, like, the twists and turns in this movie are just, they're not signposted, which in my opinion are fantastic, because, you know, you're not really seeing anything coming, but, you know, in the larger picture, it all kind of makes sense. Like, it all makes sense that everything's happening this way. So, yeah, man, really, really had a great fucking time with this movie. I don't really get out on, you know, foreign films, but this is something that just blew me away. And if you're listening to this podcast, turn it off. No, I'm kidding. Don't turn it off. But yeah, just go watch it, man. Go watch this movie and forget that it's a foreign film, because I know that could turn a lot of people off. Yeah, Parasite is my number 3 pick.
Interestingly enough, I'm a big Watch Mojo fan. Watch Mojo's number 1 film of the year. Watch Mojo's number 1 film of the year was Parasite. Nice.
Colin, I wonder if you're a Watch Mojo fan. I wonder.
Eat shit.
I'm just teasing, bro. And Matt, give us your number 3 pick, dude.
I'm gonna pick something that I think we've all seen. Not doing a movie though, a TV show. That's on Disney Plus. It's The Mandalorian. It's the fucking Mandalorian.
Oh yes.
Now, was this the best show of the year? Maybe not.
Yes.
But is it probably the most refreshing show? I think so.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever seen a sci-fi show with budget like this, let alone, you know, Danny's so into this right now.
He's stuck. We broke him. He's broken.
Gotta take Danny to the shop. Damn. But yeah, like, it's what they're doing on like a TV budget is absolutely insane. Sure, it's a big one, but and seeing all like the familiar costumes and planets come back, and it really feels like they're doing Star Wars justice, which I think was, I know for me, it was my concern going into it. It's crazy how much they're pulling off. Now, I know there are a few criticisms that people may have, such as like, you know, because it's taking so much of that Westerner vibe, there's not a lot of like character building in terms of like a supporting cast. And I know that there's like things like, it's a little bit anthological. Anthological. Like, it's not exactly, but like the story through line is very thin. But I'm weirdly okay with all of this. It's just stuff that normally I would not be cool with for most shows, but I love that we're getting it weekly and not binge watching at once.
My wife hates that.
Yeah,
she's like, I want the whole fucking thing at once. It's been nice spacing it out.
But the problem with like like Stranger Things season 3 might have made my top 5 because it was a great season, but I have trouble remembering a lot of it because I watched it all on the weekend, fuck at the beginning of the year. You know, like, so I love that about it, and I love the risks they took too. Like, I love how the music is so different by Star Wars standards.
Ooh,
you know,
soundtrack for sure is great.
Yeah, it's really great, but it's also really different for Star Wars. But that makes it more refreshing. And I think it's come at the time where, you know, some people are a bit annoyed with the Star Wars films lately, like Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. I think because people are feeling like, maybe because they feel like they're getting too much of the same. And this one, we're getting the series Star Wars, which we don't get a lot of, and where they're willing to take refreshing new approaches to things at times. I find it's just really fun. It's a fun show. I love seeing all these new like corners of the galaxy, and I love that it's mostly following characters that we're not really familiar with. So yeah, I think The Mandalorian was a great new show of 2019. I would imagine that some of you guys might have already also picked this show. Is that right?
Well, I was about to say that. You know, we've done an amazing job so far of like picking 9. No, what's 3 times 4? Sorry,
Jesus
fucking 9 times 4. 3, 6, 9, 12.
Jesus Christ.
That's why I do law. All right, that's why I do law. We've picked 12 things that haven't overlapped yet. I don't think so, at least. But yeah, we've done a good job until now. that's what I'm saying. So yeah, I think maybe Danny definitely has this on there. Maybe not. I'm just gonna put this right out there. I don't have it on my list.
I haven't even seen it yet.
Although I think it is great. Yeah, it is definitely a damn good show. Matt, you 100% nailed it. It's a fantastic show and an amazing new piece of Star Wars content that's out there by Jon Favreau. So yeah, do you have anything else to add about that one, Matt?
It's just really fucking good. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Danny, we're moving into our number 2 picks of 2019.
Yes.
Does this give something away?
My number 2 pick is Mandalorian for sure. Matt already covered everything in it, so I won't be a broken record and repeat some of it. I will highlight a couple things. The score to this show is fucking badass. It's fantastic. It's very different. If we never get a Knights of the Old Republic movie or trilogy, like I wish that we would, this is probably the next best thing. If you've played those games, you know that there's a lot of Mandalore tie-ins, so a lot of this feels like that. A lot of the episodes, they have to complete one huge task, sometimes by completing 1 or 2 miniature side things in order to get there, and they've done that almost every episode. It almost feels like the game, so I've loved that. I disagree with what Matt was saying with the character building, because I think some of the character building in this is equal, if not a little bit better than some of the other Star Wars stuff. For example, in Star Wars, when Han Solo, this is the background we get on him. Hi, I'm Captain Solo, Captain of the Millennium Falcon. This is Chewie. We get stoned together sometimes. Like, that's all you get about Han Solo and Chewie. And like in The Mandalorian, at least like we've seen like where he was raised and his society of people already. Not to give away too much of spoilers, but I think that the pacing and how they've kind of sprinkled everything in there has been fantastic. Still has that Star Wars feel to it. And it's just been something I've looked forward to almost every week. I love the storyline to it. Some really great guest stars that are in there as well. But I think Matt
Gus
pretty
from
much
Breaking Bad, dude.
Bro, Bill Burr. Oh my God. Love
Oh, Bill Burr being in that episode. That was a fantastic episode.
Yes.
There's somebody that my wife and I ended up really loving from watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Ming-Na Wen.
Oh, yeah.
She shows up in there at some point and is awesome. We were so happy about that. So a really great stellar cast and really great casting. We have to sacrifice something else to the Jon Favreau pit in order to get something that's fantastic again from him.
Sacrifice a small goat or something. Yeah.
We really appreciate it. Yeah, we'll throw a goat in there for you.
Dude,
We're moving on to Colin, and you said you didn't pick this, so I'm sorry I had to ruin the streak, Zoheb, and screw it up, but there we go. Colin.
Yeah.
Collins.
I picked Mandalorian. No, I'm just kidding. No,
Ding, 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 ding.
Order in the court.
There we go.
I think for my second one, and I want to stress this, that I don't think that there's a difference between my top 5 films that I enjoyed, going to see in the theaters. I don't think this is the number 2 best film made in the year, but it was the one that I enjoyed the most when I went to the theater.
Colin, my number 1 pick is going to be in that same exact niche.
Right. Well, because it boils down to sometimes I like bad movies. Sometimes the movies I love aren't 100% logical.
The memories you associate with them are more important sometimes than that movie winning 10 Oscars.
Absolutely, and that's
100%.
why I picked. That's why I picked fucking Endgame. It was like
Hell yeah.
the time travel stuff is bullshit. None of it makes sense. It's
but it makes Ant-Man important. Yeah.
Right, yeah. and that's fucking. And honestly, I thought that was cool because with Ant-Man, it was kind of like the dude who everyone's like, oh, fucking Ant guy. Yeah, he saves everybody.
Oh,
everybody.
no, just like the B- hero ends up being the guy you need. I love it.
Right. Yeah, and I love that. And I think that the movie suffers from, plenty of stuff. It's not a perfect film. It is the perfect culmination of a decade
100%.
worth of work. And I think that, there's some funny things like, do they need to go and play, Marvel's greatest hits, Marvel's Marvel of the Universe Volume 1? No, they don't need to go visit the Battle of New York and all this other stuff. Like, just
they don't have to make Thor: The Dark World something you have to like now.
Right? Yeah, and it's kind of stuff just like, man, it has problems, but at the same time, I mean, don't even get me started with the whole shit of like of Steve Rogers at the end of that movie and his whole arc that makes.
Hey!
Right,
I love
dude,
that ending.
Oh yeah, if you're married and you get to see he gets to go back and spend his whole life married like that, gee man, that should
Sure,
make
you know what?
cry.
Shatter all of reality and every existence that we've known. Fuck it, dude. You get
It's
to bang,
a movie, Colin.
You get to bang Haley Atwell. Fucking knock those British tits around.
Oh my
God. No,
Jesus.
They are huge.
she's fucking God. She's so hot.
Wow.
No, but I think that the
What
thing
a weird
about
segue.
right, yeah.
Colin, on your tombstone, it will read, "Here lies Colin," and in quotes, it will read, "Knock those British tits around."
I love that. It's just going to be like, here lies Colin, like not even like Colin Duncan. It's just Colin.
We all know him by that.
Yeah.
It was an honorable mention for me, Colin. What were some of the other things you liked about it?
Well, I think that for Tony Stark, it was cool. It was a cool arc. We have seen that arc a little bit, though. He is the guy who's willing to lay down on the wire. He does it several times throughout the thing. But, this was the one time that Tony Stark, and I've heard people say like, hey, he's done this arc before. He did it in Avengers. He did it in Iron Man, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, this is the one that he knew that there was a 0% chance he was coming back from. Like Avengers, you might live. Iron Man, you might live. And he's like, no, if I put that gauntlet on and I'm done. Like, and he knew that when he snapped. That is the difference between those three. It's kind of like swing and a miss, home run for me, the third time doing it. So I enjoyed the movie. I didn't really dig Professor Hulk. I'm not gonna lie, I'm going through my cons because the pros are just so incredible. Like, the really biggest complaint I had about Endgame was not seeing Hulk be like, dude, you remember when you beat my ass in Infinity War? Like, no, not this time. Like, because the thing about Thanos and the Hulk is that Thanos he outboxes him. He's tactical about the way he fights him in Infinity War, and that's why Hulk gets his ass kicked. And the thing is, I wish if they had that meeting of body and mind, he should have kicked his ass. He should have kicked Thanos' ass. Oh. And it never really happened. But it was okay because Scarlet Witch had the "you took everything from me" mo. I was like, cool, that's cool.
Dude,
I dig that.
Talk about VIP. Holy shit.
Right.
MVP?
MVP,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed it for that, but I wish Hulk had gotten that moment as well. But the thing,
Colin, pro or con, the runtime?
50-50. It could have been a little shorter. The way that it started with the decapitation was brutal, and I really enjoyed that. That was not expected, and I give a tip of the hat to Disney for having the balls to do that.
There's some guy in our theater, and when it happened and there's dead silence, everyone in there went, "Whoa!" And then in the back bottom corner, you heard some guy go, "Well, that went fast."
Yeah, well, that's over. Let's go home.
I think with Endgame, what's really interesting is like, it's definitely not a perfect film. It has so many balls to juggle, and it does spend a long time trying to set up a lot of character arcs, and there's a lot of like superheroes being sad. But what it does so well that I don't know any franchise has done so well is just send off, except maybe Toy Story, is send off so many iconic characters in meaningful and heartfelt ways. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
no,
and
absolutely.
I think, and honestly, I think Endgame kind of set a unfair precedent for Star Wars to reach, to be honest, because we got spoiled by how great Endgame was in terms of that send off.
Yeah, and all of those points coming from different stories, just landing in the same exact place at the same time to make that ending, is of course just probably one of its main crowning achievements, I would say.
Well, I mean, and the pros of the movie of a fat Thor, which is funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's cool. His arc was one of my favorites.
Yes.
And, seeing Cap lift Mjolnir, all of the great stuff that we got to see, the throwbacks to, of Thor powering up Iron Man's suit, like in the original Avengers. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that if you've watched these films, you're like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And you see Cap throw the shield and the hammer together and do the clink. And, it's like, okay, cool. This is awesome. But I mean, the whole moment of, I am inevitable. No, I am Iron Man. And it's like, no, that's incredible. And,
dude, that is an amazing moment. If we were doing a list where it was like your most memorable moments of 2019, that would come a close second. My most favorite moments of 2019 is Cap on your left. Like that.
Yeah.
Fucking,
Oh,
Exactly.
yes.
And it's just like I was just talking about the powering of the suit, all this stuff that you remember from these previous films. And I thought the final battle was awesome. My favorite part of all of Endgame is watching Giant Man punch that fucking thing in the face. It's amazing. That was my favorite part of in the theater, me and the guy sitting next to, I went and saw it by myself. I had no idea who this guy was. We both just turned and were like, dude, like, what the fuck? And that's amazing. And I really, really enjoyed that moment of it, and seeing all of Asgard, all of Wakanda, the fucking doctors, or what are the Sanctum Sanctorum? Is that what that is, right? Am I saying that right? Whatever the fuck it is. I actually haven't seen Doctor Strange. But seeing all of those worlds finally come together, seeing Peter Parker come back and seeing, Tony making the, it's cool seeing their arc of Cap. Even though I disagree with what he did because it just doesn't make any sense, it's necessary for his character arc. It's like, dude, I have spent the last 100 years of my life sacrificing for the greater good, the greater good. And he's like, I need a break. I deserve this. And he does. And then Tony's like, I spent the first 30, 40 years of my life being a total dick, and I've got to make up for it in a way. He's like, I'm trying to save the world now. So I thought that it was a great movie. The whole battle at the end is just fantastic. Seeing the moments where you actually see Thanos being terrified of him looking when Tony is putting all the stones into the glove, and you see Thanos' face, and he's just like, oh my god, I've lost. The realization of like how powerful and confident he is in those two films, and then you see him at the end of Endgame just totally destroyed, his ship's destroyed, his armor shredded, he's bleeding, and he's just sitting there with a stoneless glove on with that look on his face. You're like, this is amazing. This has all been worth it. There's a couple of things I would change, but all in all, it's definitely, as far as movie moments go and how I enjoyed myself in the theater, it's definitely the number two.
Absolutely, man. It's a great pull. Just one little piece of trivia that I found out pretty recently. The first Russo brothers Marvel movie was Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and the first line of that movie is "On your left." And cool. It's just kind of cool that like one of the biggest moments is on your left in Endgame, and it's awesome. I love that fucking movie, dude.
Yeah,
good pull, 100%. Going into my second pick of 2019 is my favorite movie of the year, so that might be a hint as to what my number one pick is. The Irishman. I fucking loved The Irishman.
I still haven't seen it.
Yeah,
Nope.
Well, I mean,
it's really good.
If you start it now, you might finish it in 3 years because it's fucking long. Have you seen it, Danny?
Nope.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to go into it like not, as little spoilers as I possibly can. It is a 3.5 hour movie, and there are moments where you kind of sort of start feeling it, but once you start feeling it, something else happens and you just pulled right back in. And it's just this amazing film with like 3 incredible performances from Pesci, De Niro, and Pacino. And it's this movie that is, you go into it expecting Goodfellas or Casino, right? Like Scorsese, right? He's this director who's known for these big like mafia-esque films. But, lately he's been directing films like Silence, with Andrew Garfield. And this is absolutely a film that it's Goodfellas, but directed by the guy who did Silence. It's this more reflective kind of look into a mafia style film. And it's, you got De Niro's character who plays Frank Sheeran, who is kind of like, regretting his big actions throughout his life and like where he is now and where his life is currently. And it's just told in this like really kind of like haunting way. There's these like kind of like every time you meet a new character, like Scorsese does this thing where there's like a caption that like is like at the bottom of their screen, like it's like a freeze frame, and it's like, you got this guy, and then literally the next line is like how they died. It's like shot in the back of the head in 1977, and it's like, at first that is hilarious. It's kind of like funny. It's like, oh, that's fucking gold. But then it's like, it's kind of like tragic. It's kind of like really haunting because, it's kind of saying that no one really survives this game. And then, you kind of go into like the conspiracy of Jimmy Hoffa and like how he went missing and who murdered him, and, how the mafia influenced JFK being elected. And it's just, it's just a fantastic movie. And I'm really, literally just before we started this podcast, I was looking for the book. I really want to pick up the book called I Heard You Paint Houses by Charles Brandt that this movie's based on. I can go into this movie for years and years. And when we eventually cover this 3.5 hour movie, which means a 7 hour long podcast, then I have some shit to say about it because this is absolutely my favorite movie of the year. It didn't let me down at all. Love the hell out of this film, dude.
When we cover The Irishman, it'll be so long. It'll be like six queens of the amount of that podcast.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. All right, Matt, give us your number 2 pick of 2019.
Fuck, after hearing Colin talk, I kind of wish I picked Endgame.
Yes, let the hate flow through you.
Yeah, when I think about it, it had my favorite movie moments were in that movie. Because I saw that movie 3 times in 2 days, I think it was. I saw it, something like that. Like it got old really fast because it's got like 2 hours of just sad superheroes. But that last like 45 minutes is absolutely incredible.
And very uplifting.
However, I'm not going to pick that. I'm going to go with Us. By Jordan
Peele.
Peele.
God, I love you. Yes.
No.
Thank you.
I'm just kidding.
Thank you so much.
This movie, despite many arguments between me and Zoheb earlier in the year about theories on what the ending implies, regardless of what you take away from this film, you are kidding yourself if you don't think it is absolutely incredible. Jordan Peele, I think, outdoes his work in Get Out, which is insane because that movie is also incredible. But this movie, like, you go from first of all, the look is just so iconic of like the red robe and the golden scissors. I feel like that could, if this had a bunch of sequels, it could be up there with like Jason and Freddy. It's a cool thing. But the movie is both hilarious and legitimately scary at times. It can go both ways. The characters are really interesting. Everything, the whole movie, every millisecond of this film just has a voice. The audio, like the music, the score is incredible. Probably one of the most interesting scores I've heard in a long time from a horror film. The way it's written is really good. The performances are great. The
Just
commentary underneath
while you're
it
on
is good.
performances, Matt, I think Lupita Nyong'o should absolutely pick up a nomination. Like, she's just fucking killing it in this film.
Isn't she just badass all around?
100%.
You know what? Like, when you think of Oscar nominees, she doesn't come to mind. But yeah, I think she's definitely deserves it. Like, she's really good. I think she's playing 2 characters and both wildly different from each other as well. That is, it's just a really good film altogether. That fuck the police scene is just hilarious to me. And I love, I forget his name, the guy who plays the dad. He's really good as well.
It's from Black Panther. I'm forgetting his name as well.
Yeah, same, but he's really good. Just overall, I think it's really well directed, well acted, well written, and it just blows my mind that after something as groundbreaking as Get Out, he was able to follow it up with something that I think personally may even surpass it. It's a really good horror film, and it just cements Jordan Peele as a visionary like horror director. Like, just, you've had the one big one and had one, like another one back to back. It's like, oh, this motherfucker's here to stay. And I'm so happy about that because, man, it's such a great film.
Tell you what, this is the only film of the year that I wrote an essay on.
Yeah, you did too.
I actually wrote a fucking essay on this film, dude. By the way, that actor's name is Winston Duke, who plays
thank you.
Yeah, who plays
Shout
Osmond.
outs.
He's fantastic. Yeah. All right, man. Unless anyone else has anything to add about Us or their number 2 picks, I say we go one more time around the circle before we reveal our number 1 picks and do honorable/dishonorable mentions. Danny, you want to kick it off?
I'll be very simple. I just have one dishonorable mention, and that was Glass. That was technically in 2019, apparently.
January.
We super late to the party on any of those, but we did end up seeing Split and loved it. went back and watched the first one, which name is slipping me right now.
Unbreakable.
Thank you. And it was really good. I was like, cool. I could see how this would be like a stellar classic kind of movie that everyone's like, oh, that's I always love watching that around this time of year. So watching Glass was just so disappointing. Maybe another honorable mention would be the new Star Wars movie, but we saw it a week ago. It's still just so sinking in that it's hard to really just be like, oh, this is my favorite one for this, and it's in top. It's just hard for me to get there. So really disappointed with Glass, and I love the new Star Wars movie for what it is. So, but I haven't digested it enough for it to be in a top 5 yet. What about you, Colin? Honorable, dishonorable?
So I'm not gonna lie, I've got several. I'm just gonna rattle them off.
Just Spitfire, yeah.
Right? Yeah. In terms of honorable mentions, I would definitely say that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That was great. It was almost my number one. I say honorable mention as in like honorable mention because it was almost number one. This wasn't like honorable mention. It didn't make top 5.
Yeah.
I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And just as a personal favorite, I love Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Not a great movie, but it just, something that I really loved. Another movie that I thought was just kind of sad. It didn't really get, I don't know, something just went wrong along the way was Hellboy. David Harbour did a great job. I think I liked Mila Jovovich. I liked Ian Shane. And it wasn't the actor's fault. This was a production problem, and this was a behind-the-scenes problem that unfortunately became the actor's problem, which is bullshit. Sure. And those are just those are just the ones that I personally thought were like honorable mentions for the year. But in terms of dishonorable mentions, It Chapter 2, fucking blow me. Hated it. Terrible. Fucking terrible. And do you guys know how much that fucking hurts me to say that? You know how much that hurts. I am a huge Stephen King fan. I actually... I finished it for the second time, 1,138 page book. I finished it this year for the second time.
It's a nice doorstopper.
Oh, dude, yeah. Somebody broke into my apartment and I knocked all the teeth out of his fucking head. I thought it was just, Chapter 2 was just dog shit. It was rushed, way too long. I don't know. That thing was kind of all over the place. And another thing it pains me to say is Pet Sematary. I think that was terrible. It
sucked.
There were some good moments in it, but beyond that, it failed to be scary at all. It failed to have the tragedy of a family that dies and, or a family member that dies. And ultimately, it just kind of left me very, it just really didn't feel that great. A couple things in terms of, not even so much, movies and stuff. And I forgot to throw this in with this is part of my honorable mentions, is, Stranger Things 3, obviously, nice. that was huge. Very, very good season. First season's great. Second season was okay. Third season really rose above the sequel. It stretched itself away from the sequel shadow. And I think it did a great job of getting away from that. And in terms of video games, The Outer Worlds. Outer Worlds is great. It is a great video game. It's a lot of fun. It's Fallout set in space, but it's not so depressing. It's very vibrant and colorful. And wow. It's a lot of fun, but at the same time, it has like very dark humor and it can be very cynical and it's very, bureaucratic. It's kind of like Walmart sends all these ships out into space and they're called like the company, there's like Spacer's Choice and there's like a bunch of different, like one of the big slogans from the game is it's not the best choice, it's Spacer's Choice. And it's like, it's so stupid. Wow. It's a really, really great game though. But those are pretty much my honorable and dishonorable mentions. I can't really think of anything else off the top of my head.
He's like flipping poster boards in his room.
Yeah, right. I look like Charlie on that episode of Always Sunny when he's got all the lines from the Pepe Sylvia on the wall. But no, I mean that's pretty much my honorable, dishonorable mentions.
Dude, don't worry, because I have so many honorable mentions.
Let's hear the goods first.
All right, here are the goods, right? So Endgame, obviously, right? Yep. That's obvious pull.
This is a top 6 list, really, if we're all going to just be franking out Endgame.
I didn't pick Endgame just because, it was an absolutely incredible film. It did a lot of things for me in the movie cinema.
But it's a lot to process as a number one film every time you think of 2019.
It is, man. Like, absolutely. And it was just such an amazing close, pretty much for all the reasons that Colin gave, for his number 2 pick. Like, it's a fantastic film. Us, like you said, Matt, pretty much everything that you said, 100% hit the nail on the head. I have all my theories about that Jordan Peele's such a great director. Here's a movie that no one really picked because no one's really seen it yet, and that's why it couldn't really qualify for our best of 2019 top 5. Matt and I have seen the war film Sam Mendes directed, 1917. Amazing fucking film. We're reviewing that on our next episode of Upcoming Attractions. Definitely check that out. Just going to put that right out there. It's a fucking amazing film. That's out here on January 9th in Australia. I'm not sure about the States, but for our little episode here, it doesn't qualify, sadly. So
I think it's out here, but we get that you're not getting it on this list because of that technicality.
Right. Colin, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, pretty much the same exact reasons you are. Tarantino is just an absolute fucking beast. And here are some kind of curveballs, right? So Dolomite Is My Name on Netflix. If you haven't seen
movie.
it.
Great movie.
Heard it's great.
Check it out. Ford v Ferrari, if you haven't seen it already, check it out.
Okay.
Ready or Not, if you haven't seen it, check it out. Spider-Man Far From Home, check it out.
Was disappointed with that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was boring.
Wow. Wow. Shots fired. And probably the biggest one, if I had a number 6, it would probably be number 6, right? This is, it's on Netflix right now. It's called Marriage Story with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man, that movie, wow, that's a fantastic fucking film. Yeah.
Zohab, there's something you haven't mentioned which I thought for sure you would pick. Is your number 1 by any chance a TV show?
It is. And I feel like you've got it, but just don't mention it.
Okay, I won't say
you shut your goddamn mouth.
Shut your fucking mouth. I'm going to disconnect you, bitch.
I thought we couldn't pick a TV show for our number 1, but that's fine.
I was going to say...
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's just for the decade has to be a film, so...
I forgot we were still doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
Or would you like to pick a TV show as your honorable mention?
Sorry. I don't know who he was talking to.
No, yeah, Danny, you go. Do you want to pick a TV show as your honorable mention?
I was just saying Mandalorian. Love it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's why I was number 2. Okay, we got it.
All right. Well, and my dishonorable mention, I only have one, and it's the biggest heartbreak, and I feel like it gets worse and worse. Game of Thrones Season 8, right? I mean...
I suppressed that like a bad memory.
Season 8, yeah. I mean, that happened this year, sadly, and it's made even worse because, the reason, rumors were flying around that the guys, Stevie Weiss and David Benioff, rushed through that entire season just to get to Star Wars, and eventually, as we all know, they were kicked off Star Wars because they signed a Netflix deal. So it kind of it feels like we, got that low quality Season 8 of Game of Thrones for no fucking reason. And it just came out on Blu-ray. I walked past it yesterday and I'm just like, ugh. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Matt, do you have a good and bad list, or are we on number 1s?
Look, a lot of the honorable mentions have been mentioned and they're worth mentioning. But
Sure.
I think Stranger Things Season 3, like Colin said, is also worth mentioning. Thought that was a real return to form for that show. I think Barry Season 2 was a really good season. I kind of just want to, because I love BoJack Horseman so much. We've got half of the final season this year, so I kind of want to mention that, even though it may not be the best. There are a few albums I really liked. I think Machine Gun Kelly's Hotel Diablo is like a career-defining album for him. Mike Shinoda's Post Traumatic, Bring Me the Horizon's Amo. Those are all 3 albums I loved.
I still haven't listened to that. I'm too depressed to think about it.
But yeah, I think like what Zoheb said, 1917 is one of the best films I've seen in a long time. And if we could pick it, it would be both number 1 and possibly best of the decade. It's that good. It just does things I didn't know you could do with cinema. Like it's that good. So I can't wait to do a proper review of it next year in 2020. My overall big disappointment, my dishonorable mention, is just franchise films of 2019. Almost every single one of them shit the bed. If you want to talk about Shyamalan's trilogy, Glass, disappointed a lot. Hobbs and Shaw, which was like the first spin-off of Fast and Furious, probably the worst of the bunch. It was like they I think both Hobbs and Shaw and Men in Black International saw the Marvel formula and go, oh, we can copy that, and just forgot to add in the heart and character and just went for like the wink at the camera and forgetting about stakes. And they both really sucked. It Chapter 2, obviously. Terminator Dark Fate, as much as I want to love that movie and I try and find the good in it, like it kind of both tried to honor a legacy and shit on the legacy at the same time. So it was kind of like, hey, we like this and we hate this. And it was really weird. I feel like as much as I do like Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, it's a shame that it disappointed so many fans, even if they are toxic fans. Endgame, I think, was a great finale for it, but I just wish it was shorter. But that I think Endgame gets a pass, and so you can give Star Wars a pass too. But just overall, most franchise films were really big disappointments, I think, this year. Terminator, the more I look at it now, the more I get disappointed.
Did you mention The Lion King?
You know what? I don't think Lion King was as bad as most people say it was. But I do think the lack of emotion expressed from the animals, while is realistic, it did work against it though. So I'm a bit on the fence about Lion King because
the best way to describe Lion King was that it was neat.
Yeah, it was a good tech demo,
but that's
a really expensive released tech demo in a way. I think that might be everything. Cool. I'm sure there's like 100 more, but let's move on.
All right, let's get into our number one picks of 2019. Danny, you're off first. What's your number one pick, man?
Okay, number one pick was a movie, and it was Alita: Battle Angel.
Whoa!
So, yeah.
Nice.
So, a good way that I picked this was hearing something or reading something that I think Zoe said, where it said it was just the one that you had kept thinking back to over and over again. That movie is not perfect at all, honestly. There's probably quite a few problems in it. Have you guys seen it?
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Okay, so everyone except for Colin. So definitely you can tell that there was some story problems where they really had to try to mash some things together to try and make sense. It's super hard for me to believe that Christoph Waltz could pick up that massive Warhammer that was surely twice his weight. Just little things like that were just like, But I loved the story building to it. Everybody that is in it is like really great and just super cool to see in it. It's really cool to think that they could make a second one. Hopefully they will. It's one of those movies that ended up picking up momentum after it was sort of released, which doesn't typically happen. A lot of times it's like while it's about to be released and maybe that first week and then maybe it dies down. But this is one that just got even more and more popular as it went along. And so it might have reached the level of getting a sequel, but it's really new to me and kind of original and unique. I know it's based off an anime. I have no manga. I have no info on that or have anything to relate it to with it. Okay, so yeah, it was great. I loved everything about it. I hope they end up making a second one, and that's the one that I've kept thinking back to this year. So
good pick, dude. Nice.
Number one.
Yeah. What I like about Alita is I feel like the storytelling is very Hollywood and Western, but everything else around it, the world building, the characters, all that stuff, it's very Japanese. It's a really nice, meshing of those two styles.
Yeah.
I'd love to see more.
Danny, I got a question for you. So for the longest time, this was supposed to be a James Cameron directed film, but then he passed it off to his friend Robert Rodriguez. So are you kind of disappointed that it's a Robert Rodriguez film, or would you much rather a James Cameron film? Maybe that's a dumb question, but yeah.
No, that's not a dumb question at all. I was looking at the people that credited it because I remember seeing that somebody else, that there was someone's big name was tied to it, and I've forgotten it was. You're right, James Cameron, but he was just in kind of in one of the back producer seats. I haven't seen a lot of Robert Rodriguez movies, and honestly, the ones that I recognize that are on here aren't the style of movies that I would ever watch. So I'm really surprised that Alita ended up looking the way that it did, honestly. Had James Cameron been in the seat of this directly, maybe it would have had a little more of smoother edges, where I know you guys are thinking some of the same parts maybe I am, where it's just a little harder to kind of wrap your head around it and still enjoy the same momentum it was at. Yeah, I think if maybe James Cameron had it, it might have been a little bit better. You guys can tell it has such a massive scale. It's almost like this just massive set of hallways in terms of a film. You can go down several of them and see different types of details. No matter what scene you're kind of watching, James Cameron has kind of a good way of giving you that big scale. But it kind of was missing at some parts, maybe because it was Robert Rodriguez. But it was still great all around.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. It's a $170 million movie, and it made $404 million. There's no, it doesn't seem like there's any news of a sequel yet. Although it did set up a sequel from memory. So
yeah, I've seen most people petitioning for a sequel is what I've been seeing. We had someone actually post it in the after party in our group on Facebook.
Nice. Yeah, it was definitely
Honestly,
a visually incredible film from what I remember.
Ooh, yes. The steelbook I have to it is it's like a close up of her hand, and you guys remember in her hand that architecture is like that futuristic wood metal. It's very unique.
Like, if my biggest criticism of that film always was, I feel like it sacrificed an ending to set up a sequel. Like, they could have closed off a lot of parts of the story, but they clearly wanted to continue it on. So I really hope it gets a sequel.
Sometimes it goes really fast.
Yeah, I really hope it does get a sequel because otherwise I feel like it's done that for nothing. And I really hate seeing that with films. Like, that's happened we've seen a lot of films that try to set up sequels or expand universes and that not working out. And you know what? That film was actually is a bit of it felt a bit different, and that's always nice. So
yeah, that's why I've kept thinking about it. That's why I picked it as my number one. So
nice, Collins.
So yeah, number one film, and it was just the one that again maybe wasn't the best one. It's definitely divisive, but it was the one that I thoroughly enjoyed just the whole time I watched it, and I was rooting for him. Is Joker.
Nice.
I thought that was it's the one where fucking blast Bobby De Niro. I don't give a fuck that dude. Yeah, and it was crazy because like I think that like a lot of people it kind of ended up taking Arthur Fleck and flipping it on its head, where you were just so rooting for him, and then when you start seeing what he's doing, you kind of realize how fucked up it is that you're kind of rooting for him. Sometimes you're like, damn, like this guy's kind of crazy, but like. It's kind of like that movie is the epitome of like, I'm not saying you're right, I'm just saying that I understand, and it's like that. That's the best way I can describe that movie to me. Is it's sad and it's dark and it's funny, and I can only watch Bruce Wayne's parents get murdered so many fucking times, and it was interesting seeing the difference in this kind of thing of this is not the criminal mastermind Joker who like I love Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight, and I love it, and that's so incredible, but he is unrealistically like unflappable, and that's the thing that's kind of almost he's too good of a villain. Like your villain should have some kind of fatal flaw, and I don't feel like Heath Ledger's Joker ever really had that one flaw that Batman could exploit, that Gotham could exploit. And you could argue that at the end a little bit, but the thing I loved about Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is it was a very, very human version of that character. And he was utterly realized and really fleshed out. And there was really nothing about it that left me wanting more. It was a lot of people are like, oh, is he this or is he that or is he not? Or was the whole thing made up in his head? And the whole thing can end up being just this utterly ambiguous thing, and you can argue that parts of it are real and parts of it aren't real, or the whole thing was made up. That's what's great about it, and people want to argue and get so literal about it and be like, no, that's not fucking real, that's not the way it happened, and I fucking hate it because it's right, exactly. Now with our fifth member of the podcast, cutting to Sloth from the Goonies live at Regal Indian Lake.
Cutting to Hugo, that Bart Simpson's fucking sibling.
Yeah. I made a pigeon rat. It's just that people bitch about it and talk about how it's not a superhero film and that's not my Joker, and that's fine. Then don't fucking watch it, man. Like, it's a great movie, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and I think that that's fine. But the thing is, like, this is just as valid as an interpretation as, Ben Affleck's version of Batman versus Michael Keaton's versus Adam West versus Christian Bale. Like, there's still people who like George Clooney and Val Kilmer, and I don't fucking strip them down for that. Let them enjoy it.
We're so on the same page on this. I love it.
Right. And a lot of people, the whole thing about gun violence was blown way out of fucking proportion. There's more gun violence in Stranger Things 3 than there ever was.
Colin, I already
disagree
forgot
with you.
about that. I've already even forgot about that. That's how fly by night that was to me.
I think people's problem, or at least mine was with that, was with this film, it's not like Die Hard where he goes out shooting people. It's more so much the psychology behind the gun violence. Like, this guy, like, he's rewarded every time he kills someone, his life gets better. He's constantly rewarded for that, and it's often showing violence as a solution. And then with no resolution as a part of that. For me personally, the reason Joker doesn't appear in any of my things is like, I feel like ethically, I don't like the message behind this film.
Does his life get better though? Like, isn't it your interpretation of what the word better is though? Because like,
I guess he gets happier.
Becoming a crime boss isn't that amazing.
And here's the thing: is I think you both have totally valid opinions, and I think that Matt is right. In Arthur's eyes, his life gets better, and he feels more empowered. That doesn't mean that he's right. I'm not saying you're right. I'm saying I understand. And it's like, I get why you feel that way. Not you, I'm talking about Arthur. Yeah. It's like, I get why you feel that way. That does not justify, like, my neighbor who can't turn his TV off, I might go and beat the fucking shit out of him and it makes me feel better. But morally, that doesn't mean that I agree with that. That means that, what you did was fucked up. You might feel better about yourself, but like, as the audience, I think most sane, balanced people are sitting there watching this going like, that is not how you solve those problems. That's what tyrants do. That's what Hitler did. He's like, just cram him in there and fucking kill him. I don't have to deal with that shit. And it's like, this is just not the way that you deal with problems like that of a class of society, or the way that people forget about people who have mental problems or people who are struggling with depression or anxiety. That's just not the way that this is handled. And I think that's kind of thing is, that's what I was saying. At first, you're rooting for him. And then when it becomes this thing of, well, I didn't get what I want, so I turned the gun on the world. It's like, no, man, that's a bridge I can't cross with you. And I'm rooting for you, but I can't root for you in this arena. I just can't do it. And that's where you're kind of like, fuck, man, like, I liked this guy, and now I'm kind of questioning that. That's why I think it's a great movie. Yeah. And to be fair, I think the film does... It does make an effort to be like, look, these people are scared of him. They're not fully glorifying it, because they do show the impacts on other people. And I think, I just want to make that out there. I'm not some crazy anti-gun nut. I'm just an anti-murdering innocent person. But the film is, like, in all aspects really well made and all that. Like, just I have a personal preference for, like, I love how the movie has a message about, like, look, the world is like such a terrible place. It can create terrible people. I just wish I wish they did more with that concept. But you know what? Like, the film as a whole, it's still a really great movie. And like Zoe had mentioned earlier, you can't take away from how amazing of a performance that is by Jacqueline Phoenix. It is incredible.
Joaquin?
Right, absolutely.
Joaquin, sorry. I'm going to get Jacqueline from what the fuck?
You said that once before.
Yeah. I have done that before, yeah.
No, but I think just wrapping up, like, I think that it's a great movie, and like I said, it's obviously very divisive, and I think that it totes a line between having an anti-hero that we can root for, and eventually crossing a line that we can no longer root for him. And I think that is the ultimate hero turned villain. It's the falling of Anakin to Vader. It's the falling of, seeing a lot of these characters that we love and that we initially root for start to turn to that dark side. And even though it's a short-term gain for a long-term sacrifice. And I think that's the thing as viewers, we go, I just can't cross that bridge. And that's why it was my number one.
100%, dude. Like, I love that until like a specific point in the movie, you're sympathizing with Arthur Fleck until you're not, and that's when it's just ugh. And also, that movie has one of my favorite shots in the entire year. It's like when he's about to be bought out on Robert De Niro's kind of like show, and Robert De Niro's playing the clip of him again, and like he's kind of smoking there, and he's like really got that grimace on his face. Oh, one of my favorite shots, dude. But yeah, fantastic.
And the use of like that whole scene was just incredible. I mean, the dancing alone, I was just mesmerized by that. And you can say it's iconic, and I don't even know why, but I was just sucked in by it. And I was like, this is really, really cool.
But even just the score, like, without the licensed music, the violins, dude, holy shit. Like, absolutely well put together film. All right. Well, we'll move on to my number one pick of the year. And it is not a film, it's a TV show. It is HBO's Chernobyl.
Nice.
Dude, man, holy shit. Matt, you guessed this, right? Like pretty much immediately.
Yeah, I saw it coming, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I have never seen a show like this before, and it's still sticking with me. And I've seen it. I saw it many, many months ago. This show is a horror miniseries described as a drama. Disguised as a drama. It's just wow. I mean, like anyone that knows me knows that I love like true crime stories and stuff. And this is a different way of doing a true crime story. Sure, it's not like, you know, one individual person shooting another individual person dead. Like, it's not that. But it is someone or some people responsible for the many, 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 many murders of innocent people. And the way that the true crime elements of that disaster is unveiled in the show is absolutely incredible. The first episode alone, okay, this is a 5-part miniseries, and by the way, this year Netflix and HBO have been pumping out miniseries, and I'm here for it. I love miniseries. Like, it's killing me just how many good ones are out there this year. But like, yeah, the first episode is the disaster itself. I didn't know much about the disaster. All I knew, was, from Call of Duty 4, like, fucking Chernobyl.
Oh, God.
You're kind of like crawling around in your ghillie suits and he's like, don't go over there, it's radioactive. And I'm just like, oh, okay, all right. I don't know why. I'm not going to look into it because I'm a fucking 15-year-old, but sure, no worries. And yeah, I didn't know much about it. The first episode is all about the disaster and how it goes down. And the second, third, fourth, and fifth episodes are about who's responsible and the investigation and the cleanup, right? We're introduced to Jared Harris's character, who's playing Legasov, Stellan Skarsgård, who's fucking incredible as Shabina, and Emily Watson as Komyuk. And man, these three fucking actors are just absolutely fucking killing it over these last 4 episodes. Craig Mazin is the guy who created this show, and man, I was listening to him on the HBO podcast. They released a podcast alongside each episode, and the guy just knows what he is doing. Like I said when I was talking about Knives Out and Joker with Todd Phillips, he just knows what he's doing. And this is a guy who previously had never done something like this before. He wrote the movies, okay? Are you ready for this? Identity Thief, The Hangover Part 2, Hangover Part 3, superhero movie, and The Huntsman, Winter's War. Like, he's never done something on the scale of of Chernobyl, and something that just, takes you from point A to B, from disaster to trial to whatever. And just asks you to look at how frail human life is and how much this one moment in human history could have destroyed an entire continent and could have made it entirely uninhabitable. It feels like a documentary, but it is not. It is a drama, but it feels so real, and the recreations are so real, and the acting is so real, and it's just a haunting piece of content that you just have to see if you haven't seen it already. Again, very much like Joker, don't watch this if you're upset or sad, because it is depressing as fuck. Yeah, man, this is stuck in my head. I will watch this again eventually, but it's just, it is too depressing to kind of like revisit over and over again. But I do definitely want to watch this again. It's a fantastic series for sure. Matt.
Yeah.
Give us your number one pick of 2019, dude. What is it? Is it a film? Is it a movie? Oh, sorry. Is it a TV show? Is it a fucking...
It's a film, yeah.
Nice.
It's a film. Complete opposite. All yours is depressing. Mine is fun. And I took a similar approach to Danny. I didn't pick like what I think was the best movie. It's just like, what was the one that I kept coming back to? And it's funny he mentioned Booksmart earlier, because I picked a very similar film. I picked Good Boys.
Yeah.
Good Boys is without Good Boys. The trailer came for Good Boys and Booksmart came out on the same day, featuring the same song, the very similar concept. This is about 3 underage boys who it's like a coming of age sort of thing. They're going to go to some sort of kissing party, and along the way, hilarity ensues. It's pretty much super bad, but there's 3 kids. But I like to describe it as like a live action South Park. It is the funniest movie I think I've ever seen in the cinema. I've never laughed harder. I can't think of a movie where I've laughed harder than this. I just think it was really well written. It was produced by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, written by one of the main writers from The Office, I believe. It's just so funny. And they always talk about how, like, you know, comedy is one of the hardest genres to do, and directing kids is one of the hardest ways to direct. But this is all that, and it's hilarious. I don't really have much to say about it, other than when I think about good times in cinema, I keep thinking of how hard I laughed at this movie. Nice. And I just keep thinking about it, and I honestly can't remember any other film where I come close to enjoying this much. I know it's a weird pick. I'm probably the only person on the planet who would put this as their number one, but fuck it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really funny.
Hilarious.
Yeah. It was a cool, diverse set of things we picked, guys.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, insanely. Like, I'm just like, wow, okay. Because, Matt, you were, like, pretty worried about, like, you know, crossover and, like, people who would, you know, choose other people's picks. And, I think
I'm very surprised.
Yeah.
So Joker and The Mandalorian were the only thing that appeared twice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's, before we dive into our one favorite film of the decade, let's just sound off on our top 5 again. Danny, what's your top 5?
Fuck, I can't remember that far.
Oh my
back.
God. Well,
John Wick 3 was 5. Booksmart was 4. The album Weather by Tycho was 3. Number 2 was Mandalorian. Number 1 was Alita, Battle Angel.
Nice. Colin?
Brightburn, Ad Astra, Rocketman, Endgame, and Joker.
Nice. For me, Knives Out, Joker, Parasite, The Irishman, and Chernobyl.
I had Toy Story 4, Chemical by The Devil Wears Prada, The Mandalorian, Us, and Good Boys.
Nice. Man, that is a good set of films right there, and good set of content altogether, man.
We should just put like a disclaimer at the beginning of the episode. If you don't want to listen for an hour and 47 minutes, skip to this mark in the episode just to jump cut it.
Yeah, too long didn't read.
All right, let's get into this, man. Your one top film of the decade. We're about to head into 2020. We've had a fucking slew of great films over the last 10 years. Home stretch. I have my top 20 picks on the after party. Matt, you have your 2 picks, Venom and the Meg.
That's a joke. That's a joke for the record, everyone.
Colin, did you put one up? I know you did, Danny. Did you put one up?
I don't think so, because I'm not gonna lie. I could grasp at the idea of one, and I have 3 in mind.
Nice.
And it's the only way that you can get. I mean, are you asking me? You want me to go right now, or you want me to hold off, or
just go, just do it.
What's your number one of the whole last 10 years?
No, and I'm not gonna. I mean, there's just no way. There's no way I can pick. And there's a 3-way tie.
What's your 3-way?
It is a 3-way tie between Nightcrawler.
Ooh. You only just watched that too for the podcast, which is great.
No, I'd seen that once before.
Oh, had you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you're thinking you're thinking of Prisoners, which is definitely tie for. That's the other one of those 3.
Damn son.
Oh, okay. So Nightcrawler and Prisoner.
And Blade Runner 2049.
Ooh,
it's a good set of films,
beautiful
dude.
Movie.
I want to say I love that 2 of the picks are Denis Villeneuve films. That's fucking fantastic,
right.
dude.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
So full disclosure, I've been trying to write a top 20 like you guys have, and I got it down to top 26, but I just realized I forgot about Nightcrawler, and I love that movie. Fuck. Like, I'm never gonna get down to 20 of the decade. Fuck.
Oh, dude, that's Colin. That's a fantastic top 3, man. I love it. If I had to pull one out of those for me, it would probably be Blade Runner 2049. That's a fucking incredible film.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah. Danny, you're up.
He started throwing multiples in there. Originally,
that's not setting a precedent. I'm holding fast.
Oh, here we go.
Now. I'm holding fast now.
Then if I'm sticking to one, then it's Rogue One.
Ooh, nice. That is cool, dude.
It's Star Wars magic, and it's just that epicness that is just so unique. Oh man, I've thought about that movie so many times. It's fantastic. That's the Star Wars movie we were waiting for. Appreciate it.
I think, I think absolutely, dude. Like, if I had to pick the best Disney Star Wars film, that would probably be it, 100%.
It's second. It's second to Empire. It's Empire and then that one. But it's easy. If somebody asks me, I'm like, oh yeah.
Absolutely. I remember watching.
ask Matt what his number.
Matt, what is your number one pick of the decade? And I know this must have been hard for you because you are one of the most indecisive people I know, and I love you for it.
His,
So
his top 20 list is 27, and that happened a minute ago.
I know.
So I had, it was hard to pick, but I think I decided to, and it would have been 1917, but technically it doesn't come out till next year. So I decided not to include that. And so I've decided to go, okay, well, I like that because it sort of changed my way of filmmaking. What film has sort of done that to me? And I came up with one. It's not a movie I want to rewatch a lot of times, but it was probably almost inspiring with how amazingly well put together it was. And it was The Revenant.
Oh, nice.
Yes, Leonardo DiCaprio, Revenant. It's just really well done. It's like he took, I'm not going to try and pronounce the director's name because I will always get it wrong.
Alejandro Inarritu.
Thank you. But it's like he took what he learned from Birdman and put it in a whole new context. And while it's not in one shot, the way it uses long takes, and it really immerses you in that. And when you put a character in such a death-defying situation, it's pretty incredible. Plus, you get the performance from DiCaprio. There are so many moments in that film that stood with me, and it really just changed my. It really just helped shape my idea of what a director does. Like, it really changed that, and it just really spoke to me. So I'm gonna put my foot down and say that's my favorite of the decade.
Dude, that is an incredible pick, man. That's a fucking fantastic film. So fucking depressing. I've seen it twice, and I felt the toll on my brain, dude. Like, I was like, this is so depressing. But yeah, amazing film, dude. Really well shot and all natural light as well.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think that was my pick when, like, my others I was thinking was like, Avengers or John Wick, and I'm like, no, The Revenant, because that movie is so fucking well made. It deserves the credit. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, man. My number one pick.
One more blank to fill in the whole podcast episode.
Yeah.
What is it?
I mean, look, everyone knows my favorite film is Sicario, right? I mean, 2015, smack back in the middle of the decade, but that is not my pick.
It's Sicario 2.
It's Day of the Soldado.
Day of the Dead.
So I thought really, really hard about this because, I mean, to nail down a top film of the decade is a massive, massive task. But that's why I asked her, right? I'm like, we gotta do this. It is a film that made me think differently about films, and it came like right at the start of the decade. It's Christopher Nolan film. It is Inception.
That was really close to my numbers. Yeah,
it's a good one.
I mean, is there any other film that just defined the fucking decade?
My God, yeah. What a precedent to set.
Inception was the movie that started the trend, and that impact, that was going on. I think they're still doing that now, you know?
Yeah, but it also, like, just the way that film is structured, just the questions and debates that it leads to, just the way that it's acted, the concept, how someone can write a script like that, it's just absolutely mind-boggling, and that is not a pun because, but it's also, like, it's just a filmmaker at the top of his game, man. And that's not to say that Christopher Nolan, Interstellar and Dunkirk, aren't up there. They fucking are. But it's just like Inception is a whole nother ball game. This is a film was so original, and this is a film that was, when you're being compared to The Matrix, that you have something special in your hands.
100%.
And this is just, it's just so well acted, and I can't go past probably one of the best pieces of music in the last 10 years is Hans Zimmer's Time. Time is an absolutely amazing track by Hans Zimmer, and just to hear that live this year was absolutely amazing. Nolan is just a genius, and he's one of the greatest directors of all time, I think. And it's just amazing. I'm so fucking excited for Tenet.
Yes.
I was going to say most anticipated movie so far for me.
Absolutely. And it's absolutely throwing off Inception vibes, right? Like, just the way it looks.
100%.
For sure.
I think the four of us should get together and go watch it.
Yeah, let's. Yeah, you guys are flying here, or we can meet halfway. I don't care where that is, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean somewhere.
My wife said New Zealand was next on the list. That's really close to you guys.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll meet you in New Zealand.
3-hour flight. Yep. But yeah, man, that was my pick, and the only reason I chose it over Sicario is because that movie kind of it changed the way I thought about film. Like, changed the way I thought about how films could unfold. And you know, sitting there, I 100% remember 10 years ago sitting there in that cinema and just thinking about and how this movie was unfolding and where it's going, and you know, understanding it, because I remember people telling me that this was a tough film to understand and you won't really get it the first time, and I'm just like, hey, I get it, but it's amazing how it's done. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. By
That's
the way,
the same reason I picked Revenant. It changed my way of looking at film in a way. It's
sure.
so good.
for sure. So yeah, there you have it, guys. Holy shit!
Wow.
God damn. That's our top films of the decade. That's our top 5 films of the year. This was a fucking fun episode, man. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Man, cool getting to hear everybody else's shit.
What a way to close out the year, hey?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hell yeah. There it is. There it fucking is.
All right, Colin, who wants to give the eulogy? The thank you guys for joining us for the year. Who wants to do that?
Ah, fuck it, I'll do it. So, yeah, guys, obviously, thank you so much for hanging in and listening to the end of this episode. If this is your first time listening to us, I mean, that's awesome as well. Way to come in at the end of the party, I guess. But hey, there's another part. Yeah, but the party ended for me like half an hour ago. The after party starts next year. No, little Iron Man 2 reference. No, it's been a really fun year. It's been it's been a lot of challenges, and it's been a lot of different stuff, and it's been a lot of guests and a lot of different movies, and kind of, you know, hey, we tried this, now let's go the opposite way and go a pull 180 and just see what happens. And a lot of it has just been a year of experimentation for me personally, of trying
Sexually,
to do
right?
yeah, definitely sexually.
Do you want me to sorry, Colin, I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm going to drop some statistics on you just quickly, right?
Yeah, hit me.
In 2019, we covered 42 movies on feature presentations. We had 9 guests. We had 65 plus upcoming attractions reviews, and we had 1 negative review calling us virgins. Those
All
are
that
facts.
equals
Those are
priceless.
Facts. Yeah.
No, and obviously we had we also went in a completely different direction and kind of overhauled what we were doing and really slowed down on our episodes, and I think that was just for the better, for time and energy and sanity. And
It's because Soheb graduated college. Congratulations. He got a job, and I realized he couldn't do all of it.
Hey, guys, I'm going to need some help editing with this.
Right.
But that being said, to the listeners out there, while our number of episodes has decreased, our numbers of listeners have increased. So thank you so much for sticking through that with us. And I guess that means statistically, though, if we make just like 1 episode a year, our numbers should go through the roof, right?
Yeah, right. We should have like 40,000 downloads for 1 episode.
Less is more.
Right. And we decided to scale back so we could stop being virgins and finally get laid, even though Danny's been married for like 10 fucking years. We're all virgins, apparently.
Yeah, I'm still waiting it out. We're going to see. It's going to be really fun when it happens.
She's playing along.
Yeah, she's going to be saying that.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys real quick? I know we were just trying to wrap up the episode, but I just got a little bit of inspiration. And if you don't have an answer, don't feel like you have to give it. But since we're doing our top 5 or our best of the decade, do you guys have a favorite episode of Midnight Double Feature so far?
I do.
For any new listeners out there who should check it out.
I mean, it's a double-edged. What is your favorite for different reasons? My favorite, like, serious, we broke it down. We did a good job. Prisoners.
Yeah, agreed. 100%.
My favorite, fucking laughing my ass off, it's probably a tie between The Rundown and Hangover. I thought I was just fucking laughing so hard the whole time, going back and listening to The Run. I mean, and it's, you can kind of, that's self-masturbatory, I guess.
It's an easy target of a movie.
Right, and it was just a lot of fun, the ice is gonna break! Like, that whole thing was just fucking hilarious. I had a lot of fun doing that one.
It was great, man. Matt, do you have a favorite upcoming attractions episode?
There's a few. I did one it was just me and Colin, and just because I rarely ever do a special presentation, which was, actually I've done 2 now, right? There was a Child's Play, and I think we did Terminator. That was with Danny as well. Terminator. Was that last year or this year? I can't remember.
That
But,
was this year.
yeah, so I had two without Zoheb, so that was fun. But we
For
had
that
a few
reason
great.
only.
That was
But I
actually
think
last
the
year,
late-
guys.
Oh, was it? Okay, my bad. But
Goddamn.
the last few upcoming attractions have been really great. Episodes 149, 147.
Yeah, we've really hit
Even
like a pretty
145.
good stride, haven't we?
Yeah, like, it took us fucking long enough, but
Yeah.
but like I don't know, even 143, I'm just going through the feed now, I'm like, oh, that was fun. This one's fun too. Like, I don't know, for some reason Zoheb and I are just on a roll lately. They've been really good episodes. So there's never been a better time to get into Midnight Double Feature, I would say.
Absolutely. Colin, keep going with the eulogy. We keep interrupting.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're fine. So yeah, obviously, we're still having a blast doing it. We're still learning a lot as we go. We're still kind of ironing out all the kinks, and I think that just because we've backed off on quantity definitely doesn't mean that we've backed off on quality. It's something that we always strive for. We're always kind of, we need to try this, we need to do this, we need to try this different. Yeah, it just in terms of being, and I'm just speaking for myself. If I'm talking out of turn, anybody doesn't agree with what I'm saying, by all means speak up. But what I'm saying is, like, in terms of experimentation, it was also, in terms of content, in terms of sound quality, in terms of the structure of things. There was a lot of different things. I think we kind of tweaked some knobs here or there as the year went on, and really kind of wanted to see what happened when we when we were done with it. And I think that there's certain areas now that we dip our toe into and we think, hey, that's a great area, let's come back to it. Or, you do something like for me personally, a learning experience is doing Young Frankenstein. And I was like, I would probably never do another parody spoof film again because they're so fucking hard to do.
Yeah, comedies are difficult, man. Like
it's very, yes.
That was my hesitation when we were doing Bad Santa just recently. But that movie has enough sort of like drama to it that you can kind of, have something to talk about.
Right. It has to be something like Liar Liar or like Dumb and Dumber or some other Jim Carrey thing that has two words in the title. No, it's like it has to be something that has a great plot to it. It's just what I'm saying. Or there's something about Mary. That's a great one.
Good pull.
But thanks. For me, it's just been a learning experience all year, and it's been a lot of fun seeing the group grow and seeing new people come into it. And, getting our first bad review that turned into a totally positive experience, not because of us. Funny. Yeah, and not because of us, because of the people in the after party that were just like, oh, and made it fun to make fun of. Nobody took it seriously, and we all we kind of sent that dude fucking packing and laughed him all the way out of town.
Zoheb's like, whew, dodged a bullet there.
Right, yeah, and it was just it was a lot of fun to rally around instead of taking it all serious and getting bent out of shape. And, making sure nobody ever saw that, we wanted to put it first and foremost because we knew that the people that surround this show and the people that make it fun would ultimately get a kick out of it because we got a kick out of it. Because if you like this show, then you probably have certain sensibilities like we do, hopefully. And I was like, they'll get a laugh out of this. Let's just fucking rip it up.
Yeah.
And ultimately it was just, we took the bad review and torched it and danced around it like savages, and it was a lot of fun. And
yes, we were naked.
Right. We were naked and we put war paint on with the shit from our asses.
Whoa.
And it's whoa, just Danny real quiet in the background. Whoa. And it was a really fun year to kind of to a second year of breaking it down and getting into it. And I appreciate all you guys so much and being on here and always making time to do it and always finding new ways to bring something to the fold and kind of change it up. And I think everybody's kind of got their niche here, like kind of carved out for them. Like I think that our listeners know when a certain movie gets picked, who probably picked it. And I think that says a lot for the people who are listening to the show. The fact that I feel like they know us that well by now, which is fantastic. And I just want to say, a big thanks to obviously a lot of podcasts out there, LSG Media, Lost Drive-In, Hey Do You Remember, the Pop List with Floyd Fry, obviously Married People Watch Movies with Patrick Harrington, and we had a shit ton of people on this year, and we had a lot of fun doing everything with those people, and we obviously love to have all of them back again. And it's just been a really fun year, and there's no signs of it stopping unless one of us just dropped dead. And even then, I still say carry on. Fuck it. Find somebody else. Everybody here is replaceable. No, I'm just kidding. That's terrible. Guys, is there anything else you want to say before we jump off here?
No, dude. All I wanted to say is, in addition to everyone following us in the after party and all of our followers on all of our platforms, I just wanted to thank you three. It's it's been a weird year in terms of like how we're, who's jumping on doing what and like what everyone's kind of like, I guess responsibilities are for the podcast. But we figured it out and we worked through it, and man, I couldn't be happier with the way the podcast is going. It's just been an absolute amazing ride, and I am so keen to keep this going. So yeah.
And I think I speak on behalf of everyone that we want to say thank you, Zohab, for being the glue that keeps this ship together and editing all the episodes and just being an all-round great co-host. So
I appreciate
Let's hope our ship is nailed together and not glued together.
Right, exactly.
Good point.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
All those episodes you edited except for Child's Play. Anyways, guys.
Yes. Sorry. And for the listeners who are brand new, but especially the new ones, don't forget, you can find us on Facebook. Give us a like. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, you name it. Give us 5-star review on iTunes. Find us on Spotify. Share with your friends. And join the After Party, our Facebook community group. And give us all the time. Ending of sentence goes here.
Nice.
Danny, you got anything you want to say before we jump off here, bud?
Nope. Just thanks everybody for listening. And thanks to you guys, of course. Congratulations on your 150th plus episode. And love talking to everybody online and just starting shit on there, socializing there. So happy New Year to everybody.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Happy 2020, guys.
Right, absolutely, guys. Thanks so much for staying late and listening this whole way through. We hope you enjoyed it. Here's to 2019, and in about 72 hours, here comes to 2020. So here's to another year. Thanks for staying late and listening again, and we will catch you next year. Goodbye.
Adios.
Laters.
See ya.